Attorney Ward, we are so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
And we want to make sure that the citizens get an opportunity to hear you and what a wonderful person you are and what a wonderful candidate you are and the wonderful, excellent alderperson that you will make for the 5th Ward, a historical ward, as a matter of fact. And so we're going to just wait for a few more moments as we gather more people in. And have we had an opportunity to share it to our pages?
Yes, it is live on my personal Facebook page, Renita Ward.
Wonderful. So all of you in Facebook and Zoom line, please go. You can let everyone know that they can go to Renita Ward's personal Facebook page and see this live. So good evening, everyone. We are so excited about being here today. I'm attorney Dorothy Cook, and I'm excited about being given the opportunity to not only endorse, but to interview this excellent young woman who is running for alderperson of the 5th Ward. So, Attorney Ward, you have a magnificent background, but why don't we give you an opportunity to speak to the people from your heart and just ask them what you'd like for them to do.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, Attorney Brown, and I thank you for your kind words and your endorsement. And I thank you for those of you who are out in my Facebook taking the time to join. Some of you I know, some of you I've just met, and some of you I'm looking forward to knowing, particularly as your next 5th Ward alderperson. I am here in the city of Chicago in the great neighborhood of Hyde Park, and have been here since studying at the University of Chicago Divinity School. I am Southern Belle, as they say, by home training, and studied also at the University of Georgia, originally as a reporter. And so between those two fields, I have learned to appreciate a lot of different diverse perspectives and to bring people together to really get things done. And I believe that that is what the 5th Ward needs right now. And that is what the 5th Ward has been asking for. And so my goal is to bring my skills as a capable practicing attorney now and a compassionate pastor on the south side of Chicago to the 5th Ward with heart and capability to lead us forward as your voice in City Hall.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Attorney Ward, you say you are Southern Belle, and I'm a Southern Belle as well. And tell us a little bit about your family.
So I'm one of 4. I am the second born of, I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers. I came up in a hardworking family. My father, a pastor, but also a military man, and my mother, a stay-at-home mom for some time, but also a working woman. And so I learned to appreciate not only family and being there for your family, but your duty and your service to others and to the community. And I don't separate those things. We learn to be able to help someone along the way and to make the best of ourselves. That's in part why I pursued education with such vigor. Some people say you have more degrees than the thermometer, but I found whether it's the communications or whether it is the divinity or whether it's the law, it's important to be able to have something that folks can't take away from you, and that is your education. That was highly promoted in my household, but as I mentioned, also community service. So I enjoyed living in the state of Georgia. My family is still there, and for over the last 15 years have been in the state of Illinois and in the Chicagoland area, and of course, here in the Fifth Ward.
Very good, very good. And so, Attorney Ward, being a Southern Belle and the daughter of a pastor, why don't you tell us about your education? I mean, I just think it's so unique for you to be the daughter of a pastor and then to be a pastor yourself, and then to be educated. So tell us about your education and why did you decide to get so much education?
Well, I think one thing that threads through all of them, and one thing I seek to bring to the role as the Fifth Ward Alderperson, is being an effective communicator. And I think the first thing about communication is listening. And one of the things that I have heard serving as an attorney, not just practicing, but as a pro bono attorney here in Chicago and also as a pastor, is that people are hurting. People want solutions. People want a responsive leader. And so my education and my profession has taught me and has given me the skills to be a deep listener, an active listener, a deep thinker, but someone who's able to take those big abstract ideas and make them into some tangible, practical solutions. So at each rung of my studies, that was a motivating factor, hearing the needs of people and being equipped to deliver solutions, whether that's a narrative that actually reflects who people are, whether that is being able to meet people in their place of space and faith or no faith at all. And then obviously as an attorney, recognizing that there are some professional skills in our culture and in our society that you can use to actively move things forward. You might be saying, okay, well, what is that? Perhaps an ordinance, perhaps legislation, perhaps a different way of getting something accomplished that is more structural.
Wow, I always found it interesting, and people always, used to say to me, how can you be an attorney and saved? How can you be an attorney and a Christian? Don't attorneys have to lie? Have you ever had that comment made to you?
Well, people say all kinds of things about attorneys, but people say all kinds of things about preachers and Christians too. I think at the end of the day, it's about integrity. It is about understanding what's being required of you at that time, being the most informed that you can potentially be. And then at the end of the day, right and wrong, you actually don't have to have a boatload of education or credentials to know right from wrong, or to feel that something is just or unjust. And that's another thing that I actually love about the Fifth Ward. There are plenty, we have the University of Chicago, so there are plenty of academics and intellectuals, but then also we have individuals who may not have acquired that much education, and that's okay, because we all enter the conversation at a different place. But going back to your original question, I think, operating with a sense of integrity and a moral compass that is chocked with the truth is a lot better than something that is full of lies. It tends to all come out in the end. Mm-hmm.
Wow, the Fifth Ward is going to be in great hands with you.
Thank you.
Because that integrity and the honesty and integrity is just really number one when it comes to being in elected office. So, Attorney Ward, why do you want to be alderperson for the Fifth Ward?
I have studied some, or I shouldn't say study, I've spent some time as a pro bono attorney at the Trinity United Church of Legal Clinic on the south side of Chicago. So I get to meet people and their needs at the street level. And in the ministry role, I also get to go from everywhere, from the nursing home to the funeral home to inside of people's homes. And I have found that people are looking for a responsive, capable leader who is able to push agendas forward, but is able to do that with a sensitivity to people. And so I want to respond to the call that I have heard from my fellow citizens looking for a responsive, capable, and compassionate leader. And that really is who I am. And so fundamentally, I want to be the next Fifth Ward Alderperson because the people are asking for this type of leader.
And I know that traditionally Hyde Park has been considered a very progressive and independent area. I know that's part of your area, and even the South Shore area has also been considered very progressive and independent. And I know that your theme has been moving forward together. And I just think that speaks volumes because it just takes me to a government of the people, for the people, and by the people.
You got it.
Can you kind of expound on why did you decide on a theme moving forward together?
Well, that is a great question. Our current alderperson who's retiring has a tagline that says, keep moving forward. And after having served for a couple of decades, that's an apropos tagline, I believe, to keep moving forward. I think in a time that's so divisive, when people don't trust sometimes their own neighbor. Sometimes people just don't feel safe because of the news of the crime and different instabilities around them. I think it's more than just moving forward because some people may feel like they're going to get left behind. And I believe the notion of moving forward together, something I'm deeply committed to and something I'm deeply committed to fostering, gives people a place to enter the conversation. It gives people a place to be seen and to be heard. And then as your next Fifth Ward Alderperson, to have your voice and your interests be represented. I believe that that is vitally important for people to sense, feel, and believe and know is true when they look at their alderperson.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Thank
So,
you.
so what makes you so much different from the other alderpersons? How many people are in this race? A lot
Oh,
of
it's a healthy race. I like to tell people who are familiar with track and field, there's more than one heat. Go ahead and look it up. So I really think about it like going to your favorite restaurant. You know, perhaps there are some things on the menu that appeal to you at different times. And so there's a nice qualified field out there. What I want to be is people's first choice. I want to be their first choice. I'm asking them to vote for me and to punch 51, again, because of that capability and that compassion that's going to move us forward. I want people to be able to look at me and know that I am going to listen to them, respond to them, work with them, and work for them as we move forward together. And that's more than just some pithy ways of saying things. That is what we will do as we move forward in the Fifth Ward after February 28th.
absolutely. And so uh, I want to start to kind of get into, some of the things that are prevalent from a substantive nature in the ward. You're leading a ward that is very diverse. A lot of people in your ward. Of course, you have the University of Chicago in your ward. So you have probably one of the top three, if not five, educational educational institutions in the country in your ward. And I would imagine that the average educational level of your ward is pretty high compared to a lot of the other wards. And so let's talk about some of the things that people are concerned about. And I want to just go on and start off with people are concerned about crime. reducing crime in the city of Chicago. It's something that has been a heavy lift for the mayor, and I know the current mayor is probably taking some hits for it right now. So, and I know you're only 1 out of 50 votes, and you don't pick the police superintendent, but I think that an alderperson can have a voice in making recommendations concerning how to some initiatives on reducing crime. So why don't you talk about your plans for reducing crime in the Fifth Ward?
Absolutely. It's a conversation that I take deeply personal. I think one of the things that moved me from the sideline to being asking the voters for their vote and their endorsement on February 28th is that there was a shooting 2 blocks from where I live. And I live in a very, what some would consider a nice neighborhood in Hyde Park. And when I heard about it, Attorney Brown, I put on my shoes and because I walked the neighborhood, I walked to the grocery store even, and I went to the location that had been publicized as where a young person in high school had been killed. And lo and behold, you couldn't tell that anything happened. In some neighborhoods, you might get a little shrine or there may be some tape to let you know that there was a crime. But in this instance, there was nothing there. And it truly, I wept, I cried. I could not believe that a life had been lost within 48 hours and you really couldn't tell. And that was a high school student. But in a relatively short period of time, someone from my alma mater, who was an international student, also within a 3 mile radius, unfortunately lost his life due to random gun violence. And of course, it has this very tragic and heart-tugging feel. But when people say, I don't feel safe, I don't know if I can walk to the lake or walk to the grocery store in my ward, I understand the sentiment that is tugging at their heart. And I'm a mother, my young person, my young adult, even though, you always look at your children as babies, my young adult, I too want to know where they are, what they're up to, what they're doing, because of that feeling of safety and concern. And so I just respond to your question by saying I take it deeply personal when it comes to the safety, not just of the folks in my neighborhood, but across the ward. And that's why I think it's really important to continue to partner with the Chicago Police Department. I do serve on the faith-based subcommittee with the CAPS office in the 2nd district. And what I have found is there are some good folks in uniform who are committed to doing the right things to help people be safe. So I think that community level partnership with the CPD is vital. When it comes to the city council and their budget, I do believe that budgets are moral documents. And so when we look at the budget for the Chicago Police Department, I'm very much prepared to make sure that the amount that we're spending lines up to the decrease in crime that folks expect. And that doesn't necessarily mean putting more cops on the street or beefing up cops in a certain neighborhood. But I do think it's important for it to be properly aligned. Here in the city of Chicago, we have also, at the response of the community, the people have demanded community advocates and oversight when it comes to the Chicago Police Department. And so not only are we electing alderpersons, but we are also electing for a very new position, district councilman. And so I'm looking forward to working with the representatives that will be in the 5th Ward. Those are the folks that the citizens are putting on the ballot to monitor, engage, and work with the Chicago Police Department. And so I really want to be lockstep with those people who have responded to that charge. And then finally, when it comes to crime, Mental health is not a crime. Mental health is a part of the person. And so we have to be able to treat people who may be in a mental health crisis, not as a criminal, but someone who needs help. And that's by licensed, trained professionals. And we've had several instances, and I certainly don't want to see any more, of when police respond to a cry for help, being put in the situation to respond to someone who really needs mental health professionals there. So I am an advocate for treatment and not trauma. And I really do see that as more than a buzzword or something to drop in response to this. I really believe in some of the initiatives, in particular, being able to call out to mental health professionals and not just necessarily dial 911 and get an armed police officer to respond and to help. So those are some of the ways that I'd like to foster increased safety in the Fifth Ward.
Fantastic. Wow. So, and collaborating with the police department, I see you've already been working with the police department. Not a lot of people sit on those district councils and get a chance to kind of see firsthand what's going on with the police. That consent decree that is that the police department is under, and and what do you think the city council? I was just thinking about that consent decree and how it's going, and and it seems to me that it could be going better. It could go better. That it talks about training the police officers. It talks about sensitivity training to the police officers, for the police officers. What do you think about that consent decree as far as the police department?
Again, the consent decree is a result of the clamoring of the people for the folks who are supposed to help protect and serve, to protect and serve in a certain way. And so when we look at the consent decree and our ability to be accountable to that, I think it's important that we see the CPD be able to do that. It's just like the ask that will come from the forthcoming district councilman. When we've had the public to speak out, when we've had the public to cry out, when we've allowed the chains or the mechanisms in our society to work themselves out, and we come forth with a document like the consent decree, we want to go ahead and see those things be activated, and we want to have a sense of implementation and accountability. Dorothy, I don't think that there is any shortage of great ideas and great plans in the city of Chicago, and folks who've heard me on the campaign trail and even before, I really am about implementation and activation and accountability of the very best ideas that we already have on the table. And so when it comes to the consent decree, implementation, right, and accountability, isn't that what the people want? Isn't that what they deserve? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. So let's move to economic development, because of course, to me, when, and you look at they have some theory called the broken window theory, right? If there's a broken window, and then it can lead to, in your area, lead to a reduction in the market value of the homes, and also tend to lead to a crime if you leave that window broken and it's another window broken, et cetera, right? And so let's move into economic development. I know that in Hyde Park, we have a lot of great restaurants, and we have even some nice hotels and that sort of thing. But that's not everywhere in the Fifth Ward. I mean, there's a great dichotomy right there in the Fifth Ward as it relates to economic development, in my opinion. When I first got to Chicago, the 71st Street Strip was like downtown Chicago, and it's not quite downtown Chicago anymore. And so let's kind of talk about, and even 75th Street for that matter, because I know there's some things that they have planned for that. So let's talk a little bit about that economic development and about using TIF money, all of those things that people talk about in Chicago, but let's talk about it as it relates to the Fifth Ward.
You're right. It can be the tale of two wards, and I think the residents know that, and the residents want it to change, and I want to be a part of leading that change. When it comes to 71st, I'll start south and then go up, or even our little pocket in Grand Crossing by 75th. I think there's been a concerted effort to take advantage of granting of funds, but also the TIF money. The call right now is for TIF money, the tax incentives that can be made available to be used in the South Shore area. And when they are used in the South Shore area, Dorothy, for the community, not just the alderperson, to be a part of deciding how it is used. So we have seen a local market come on, a grocery store in the Fifth Ward. Of course, like you mentioned, we want to see it more robust. I was over on 71st myself this weekend, talking with one of the business owners at Surfs Up, and give me some shug, a delicious bakery that I love. And, both of them are there because they want to be there, family-owned businesses, but they want other businesses. They want the vibrancy that you talked about. So when it comes to TIF dollars, I think there's a mandate that the next time we have that opportunity to have community engagement and a community voice at the table when we make decisions about how it's been spent. I also just want to applaud the South Shore Compact that is also in the 71st South Shore area. And this is a coalition of various organizations and businesses and the South Shore Chamber that work in that area. And Dorothy, to your earlier comment about the broken window, South Shore Compact has gone through and done asset mapping and continues to do so of the area in the South Shore. They have developed a quality of life plan that speaks specifically to some types of things that can be done in the South Shore area to bolster the economy and also strengthen and undergird the housing market. This is exciting work, and I really want to be a part of bringing that work to bear, because the people have done the work. And I think a responsive leader, a responsible leader is able to go in and see what has already happened and already been done, join shoulder to shoulder, go out front when necessary, and make sure that those visions happen. When we go up north a little bit in the ward, again, we have a very active chamber, the Hyde Park Chamber, that has been able to coalesce the businesses and the banks together. And I think, again, it's incumbent upon me as an alderperson to partner with those who have already been doing the work and amplify the types of programs that they want to see to close the gap and to continue to lift the Fifth Ward further and higher together.
Very good, very good. So it seems like the Fifth Ward is going to be really going forward. Now, so since we're talking about this economic development, I cannot forget the Obama Library. The historical Obama Library, just our pride and joy of our first Black president, Barack Obama, and of course the First Lady Michelle Obama. And every time I drive over near Stony Island, and I believe that's Columbus, I just look at the new construction that's coming up, and I'm just excited. I'm very excited about what's to come. This is historical for Chicago and for the country. So let's just talk about, first I want to talk about, how you feel about it. And, I have a sense of pride, and I'm not, I have a sense of pride about it. And then we'll talk about, some of the issues that people have related to it. But I want to first kind of talk about how you feel about, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's fantastic. I think everyone I think most people share, your enthusiasm, me included. There are only 15 presidential libraries in the entire United States, and we have the privilege to have the forthcoming Barack Obama Presidential Library and Center here in the heart of the Fifth Ward. And so that puts us at the top 30% as it relates to the presidential libraries. I believe everyone is excited. There's a little bit of trepidation, as you mentioned. People have some deep concerns about traffic and housing and jobs, and those things are legitimate and they have to be addressed. But yeah, it is hands down a exciting time to see the cranes grow up and the ground has been broken and the bricks being laid for the Obama Presidential Center.
Okay, so now you talked about some of the challenges. So let's just hit on that a little bit. They talk about this CBA. Tell us, what is this CBA, and what do you think is going to happen to the people that live in that area, and to affordable housing in that area?
So the CBA is the voice of the people. And so when we talk about being an alderperson, excuse me, that's who I am. I have my own personal thoughts and how I might think something should go. But ultimately, I am here as a representative as the people and of the people. And so there is a segment of the people who would like for there to be a specific agreement in place with the Obama Center that talks about how jobs and how certain things are going to happen. And that hasn't come to fruition, even though there have been some commitments already made, and we already see with the work that is happening with the Obama Center that persons of color, Black people, and minorities, other minorities, and women have been given and will be given specific jobs and assignments as it relates to the development. I think that's right. I think that is the right direction. This community is 64% Black. And I do think that the people legitimately are concerned about making sure that a edifice of this magnitude doesn't just go up and the people in the community don't benefit from it.
So you think that that community benefits agreement, even though we do not have it yet, you think that we're going to, it didn't have to sign on a dotted line. We're going to still benefit with jobs and affordable housing and that sort of thing.
You teased it out beautifully. Two things. One, we're going to benefit, and there is a need for accountability, and that balance should absolutely be there. If the people don't get exactly what they want, they have to have something. And it's my responsibility to make sure, as their alderperson, that checks and balances, that partnership and that accountability is there.
So having you there to shepherd that library into a place will be a phenomenon. I think that having you as an attorney to be there and to be able to oversee that effort will ensure that the people will get the kind of benefits that they need from that particular construction, and not just during the construction time, because people think, oh, let's give our people some construction jobs. Guess what? If they can't handle the machine, just let them clean up some, and then all of a sudden it's gone, right? Construction cleanup and that sort of thing. But I want to make sure, and I want to have an alderperson in place like yourself that can make sure that we run it, that we're part of that library.
You talked also about, and I'll go back to that. You talked also about housing and tucked with housing and the jobs beyond just the construction, the displacement, making sure that folks have a place to live. So I'll take it in two parts. First, I'll talk about the enrollment and the jobs that should be there, and not just the jobs, the benefits that should be there. And we have been in the Fifth Ward engaged actively in the conversation with the Obama Library since the designation of the Jackson Park community was made. That engagement under my leadership is going to continue. In the current ward meetings for the Fifth Ward, we have representatives from the Obama Library and the foundation there regularly. And so we get to ask the people who make these decisions the questions about the promises that have been made and need to be made. And that's certainly my intention to continue that. I'll also mention, Dorothy, we're expecting, some million tourists once this center comes on. And so there's a lot more than just construction. There is hospitality, there's the tourism, there are, again, housing, a myriad of jobs and opportunity that come with the influx of those people. And so I think it's my responsibility as the Fifth Ward Alderperson to continue the partnership with the Obama Center and the community, even if we don't have the CBA in place, to make sure that our checks and balances are there, specifically for housing, because there is a high rentage population in the South Shore community of the Fifth Ward. I think some rent protections are necessary that we have in place to make sure that people can actually still afford to live here. I do think affordable housing set-asides to a certain extent are appropriate as well. There's a model that was in the Woodline community, an ordinance, again, at the bequest of the citizenry was passed that outlines several protective measures for people and their property in the Woodline community. And right now, there is an organization, CBA, the coalition, that wants to see something similar in the South Shore community. And so I think we have to take a hard look at what the demands are for that ordinance. And if not in its current form, something quite similar that we're able to make happen in the city council, just like we did for the Woodline community, to protect people, their homes, and the property values, and protect them from displacement. People who've lived here for decades deserve to be able to keep their homes and to be able to still be a part of the great success that is coming our way.
Wow, I like your ideas about rent protection and set-asides, and maybe even giving them some type of grants to help people to continue to live in that neighborhood. But you talk about the millions of tourists that are going to be coming. Maybe I have to become a street vendor or something. I can become a millionaire.
If you do, people come to the Alderperson's office wanting to make sure that licenses and those types of things are available and they can have help to do just that. And so I'm looking forward to having staff and myself dedicated to making sure those kinds of things can be possible for dreamers like yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Speaking of that, and I know that one of the things in your plans is actually an operationally efficient, responsive, automatic office, which I'm going to say to you, you really just don't find that in automatic plans. You don't find people thinking outside of the box like that. So I want to commend you for recognizing the importance of good customer service to the residents. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what you'd like to do as far as that responsiveness and operation efficiency for your office?
Yeah, some of my work informally working with a multi-state foundation and working with a major corporation as it relates to their communication really has taught me a lot about the importance of customer service, and not just on the individual level, but how to scale that up so that people are getting efficient service, but they feel like it's like you're doing with me, one-on-one. And so I believe that's a balance of having the right staff in place, and that is a balance of using the right technology. And so my goal is to investigate and implement in the office a mechanism where if people are online They can go in and input their concerns, similar to what we might do in a lot of different other places, and be able to track their concern, just like we track a lot of other things on our phone, to see where it is and how it is being addressed or resolved. And I'm anticipating not just getting complaints or questions, but also getting compliments. So I want to make sure that that too is routed. And Dorothy, I don't want to assume that everybody can do something from their phone or from the computer, because there are a healthy number of senior citizens who still like to talk on the landline. And so I want to have a mechanism in place that when they call the office, even if they're talking to someone, their concerns also too are logged and documented and tracked, so that we can numerically be able to see how we're responding, what the most popular questions are, and making sure that the resources are being connected to the people in the Fifth Ward as they should be.
Well, that's really amazing, Attorney Ward, because that's something that people just simply have a problem with when it comes to the majority of the aldermanic offices. And so for you to think about the people and think about how you can be more responsive to them speaks volumes. And even just answering the telephone. And
just answer the phone.
answering the telephone and returning calls, and then tracking and giving people a mechanism by which they can track how their concerns are being addressed. That's something that's really, really thinking outside of the box. So my compliments to you on that. And so let's go to let's talk about education a little bit. You know, education, a lot of people say that education is the foundational key to solving crime, you know, economic development, just the overarching thing as it relates to a lot of things. You know, even having an educated workforce to be able to get certain things done. So let's talk about, I mean, I know we have the University of Chicago in your ward, and people are very educated there, but everybody can't get into the University of Chicago. So let's talk about, you know, really Chicago Public Schools, that level of education, and your ideas as it relates to them.
Great question. I'm so glad that I've benefited from educators, active, current now, and retired educators for being volunteers on the campaign. And I've been able to hear firsthand from them as it relates to the Chicago Public School. A couple of things really quickly. You know, it's not a secret that the student population in Chicago Public Schools is on a decline for a multitude of reasons. And so that decline may have some of our schools built that don't fit the student population that's currently in them. So I think it is incumbent upon us to work where we are. Of course, we want to continue to be the third largest public school district in the country. But where we are right now, Dorothy, is we see a decline. And so I want to focus on making sure that adequate staffing for the student population that is in a school is there, that the administrators and the teachers are proportionate to the actual student population that is there. I also want to acknowledge that maybe we're not offering the same suite of courses that we were before, but the curriculum is equitable across CPS. I want to partner with the schools to make sure that the curriculum is being implemented in a way that it is equitable across the school district. What that might look like is centers of excellence. Once we have that base core curriculum, we have the adequately staffed schools, we might be looking at how can we identify a center of excellence for a particular school that offers a certain track to the students that attend there, so that we give the option to have trade continuation, apprentice continuation, or that long-term college track across the school system. Obviously, your alderperson isn't in charge of that, but I do believe it's my job to partner effectively with the Chicago Public Schools. Then finally, I want to say that I have to be in conversation with the administrators and the educators on a regular basis. If not myself, a liaison in my office that regularly meets with the school administrators and teachers in our ward, so that we know firsthand what it is they want and what it is that we can do to create the type of educational system that all of our kids deserve. Our children deserve to be able to go to a school that helps them grow and glow to their very best potential. And your zip code shouldn't determine the quality and the type of education that you get. And then finally, as I leave that comment, you're right. We have the DeSable Museum on the outline of our ward. We have the Science and Industry Museum right in our ward. We have the University of Chicago right here in our ward. And there is ripe for opportunities to maximize on those partnerships to develop any type of extracurricular or supportive program that our youth and our young adults can benefit from, having these world-class institutions right in our front and backyard, right? Mm-hmm. I know it's a lot. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I promise this is a fantastic ward with so many wonderful things about it.
Wow, yes. I hadn't thought about the Museum of Science and Industry, DuSable Museum, University of Chicago, all of those key, really historical, almost landmarks right here in the Fifth Ward. And then, of course, the Barack Obama Library, which would be the premier, probably, location in the entire world. But I really like the way you said that, and I'm going to be honest with you, it really touched me, almost brought tears to my eyes when you said that our children deserve to be able to grow, and not just grow, but to glow. That means having our children to go to a different level in their lives. And so thank you for having that thought and having the heart and passion for our youth. So what kind of programs do you think, speaking of youth, what kind of programs do you think we need in our wards for, after school, for our children to be able to, it goes to this reduction of crime too. They said that, research has found that, the time between 3 p.m. when children get out of school and 6 p.m. when parents finally get home, right? Some of the parents get home later than that. Most of the things that children are going to get into occur within that period of time. And they really need to have some things to do. What do you think we need in the Fifth Ward in that regard?
It's a great question. As a youth minister, I did some work over here on the South Side with Parkway Gardens and a program out of New Beginnings Church called The Refuge. And so that gave me an opportunity, maybe 200 plus kids. Every Friday, they would, hook up with a safe place to be. And so it gave me an opportunity to be face to face with our youth and to engage them. And also here in the Fifth Ward, I will highlight the Woodlawn Justice Hub, which again brings together youth and gives them a safe place to express themselves in an artistic fashion. And even they take the kids, Dorothy, out to camping trips in different places in the Illinois area. So I say all that to say, we have to be eye level with the kids. We can't talk about doing something for youth and youth aren't engaged in the conversation. So I think making sure that those built-in ways of getting feedback and maybe even a youth advisory council for the Fifth Ward office, hearing the active voice of youth followed very closely with their parents. I don't want to talk a lot about presenting something to folks that they are not engaged in having made themselves. You mentioned that trouble time when kids tend to get themselves into trouble. And I think we have to bolster up programs like the city has the After School Matters. The Chicago Park District also does work as the summer or provides opportunities for jobs as the summer comes along. So I think we have to acknowledge that some of our youth need employment, and those jobs need to pay and to compensate so that they can be able to do some of the things that they want to do with the money that they earn, but also that they earn skills along the way. That's that public piece. But I think we have to effectively partner with our private industry too, because they have pipeline programs that, again, prepare our students for the workforce. So there are opportunities for increase in apprenticeship programs as well. And so I'll just summarize by saying I want to hear from the youth. I want to hear from their parents, but I also want to make sure that we're providing youth with something active to do that's training them for the future. And then lastly on that, I'll say trauma resiliency and sort of wrap around. Our kids are facing a lot. We all still are coming out of the most intense part of the global pandemic. And it pays for us to slow down and see how our kids are doing and be able to provide some wraparound services and wraparound programs that really speak to the heart of what our youth are encountering. We have to stop in order to move forward together, Dorothy. We have to stop and attend to our children and make sure we're taking the very best care of them that we can. I know some people may say it sounds hokey, but from that long gone songbird, the children are our future. And I certainly believe that. Mm-hmm.
And they really are our future. So this has been quite enlightening and very intriguing to listen to your plans for the Fifth Ward, and just to know that the Fifth Ward is going to be in such capable hands. And so at this time, I would like to give you an opportunity to give us a closing statement. Have you look in the camera and tell the Fifth Ward residents what you need them to do on February 28th, and just talk to the Fifth Ward residents for a moment.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity of taking the time to listen, to learn more about me and to learn more about my plans for the Fifth Ward. I like to look people in their eyes, to shake their hands and let them know when I go to City Hall to represent you, it's just not Renita Ward going, but when I go, you go too. That is my way of acknowledging you, letting you know that I see you, that I respect you, and that you matter. And the things that we need to do together to move forward, I'm prepared to represent you in doing that. I ask for you to punch 51 and vote for me on February 28th, not just because I'm capable as a practicing attorney, but I bring with you the compassion and the spirit of duty and heart that I learned in ministry. I am capable and I'm compassionate. I am ready to work with you and for you to move the Fifth Ward forward. On February 28th, I am asking you to make Renita Q. Ward your first choice and punch 51 and vote for me, Fifth Ward, Alderperson. Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you so very much, Attorney Ward. And thank you all for being with us today, all of you from the Fifth Ward in the city of Chicago. God bless.
God bless.